Good evening. Welcome to my channel. Today is Sunday, August the 18th, and welcome to a special edition of Angry Taxpayer. This is the Angry Taxpayer quiz show entitled Fibs, Lies, and Videotape. So your job tonight is to decide the difference between a fib and a lie. And I'm going to start with some somewhat familiar terrain. We've had conversations about land use and tax abatements and why the appointments process is very important to our land use, because the mayor appoints land use commissioners, and then those commissioners go on to make decisions regarding applications to build, let's say, large apartment complexes. Sometimes those applications are tied to tax abatements, and as we know, the tax abatements, they're supposed to pay us back in terms of economic stimulus. But if the city is not recovering the lost revenue through economic stimulus, well, they're recovering it through us. So I'm going to go back to March of 2018. And I had requested, I want to know more about the appointment process. I had asked the mayor about a vacancy on the zoning commission. It was a seat that was vacated by Doug Stern when he was elected at large to the Common Council in November of 2017. So that vacancy should have been filled within 60 days. It was not. And I asked the mayor, and on April 2nd, he said, I have had discussions with two individuals on their interest in the position of zoning alternate. Until they provide an answer, I will not disclose who they are. So, question, is that a fib or a lie, or it could be the truth? You may choose C, which would be the mayor was telling the truth. So here's question number two. I asked the mayor the same day about what their zoning credentials were, because I guess we would want our zoning officials and our planning officials, the commissioners who are appointed and volunteers, but we would want them to have some sort of background, or at least an interest. The mayor wrote, I reached out to them, and if they express an interest, they will submit their information so I can forward it to the council. I asked if he would not want to review their qualifications in advance, and the mayor wrote, I know these individuals and know them to be uniquely qualified. Fib, lie, or truth? Now, I went on to file a Freedom of Information complaint with the Freedom of Information Commission in Hartford, and Deputy Corporation Counsel Jeffry Spahr tried his darndest to get me to drop the complaint, but I stuck to my guns because I felt that they did not adhere to the Freedom of Information Act. And specifically, the point of the complaint was the mayor said there were two uniquely qualified individuals, and they never disclosed any documents. Now, the truth behind the FOIA is, if there weren't any documents, if these conversations were on a football field or a hockey rink or at a diner, and the mayor didn't take a record of it, then there is no document, and they can't create documents just because you've asked for them. But I found it interesting that he knew these people to be uniquely qualified. There were two individuals whom he knew, and he knew them to be uniquely qualified. So I found that it was not plausible that they had nothing, because when I expressed an interest, I was asked to submit a cover letter and a resume. So I expected to see the same, quite naturally. Now, during that hearing on June the 4th of last year, 2018, it was discovered that when the mayor told me about these two individuals who were uniquely qualified, according to Laoise King, she is our chief of staff. At that time, she was the assistant to the mayor. She's now making the same salary as the mayor, about $140,000 a year, not including benefits. Ms. King reported to the hearing officer, Victor Perpetua, that the mayor was trying to be polite. So I guess, he didn't want to hurt my feelings. And the hearing officer, Victor Perpetua, said, so he told a white lie. So those first two questions, were they fibs or were they lies? You could still think that they were the truth, even though those people did not exist, in order to avoid a fine and a finding the hearing officer allowed Jeff Spahr, the charming and talented Jeff Spahr, and Ms. King to go back and do the search again, this time using actual names. Because as I pointed out during the hearing, how can you know that you've searched for responsive documents when you haven't plugged in any information? You should have asked the mayor what the names were and then looked for those names and then said, well, we have information, but whatever, we have an exception, we can't share it with you. So the third question is, this is a videotape portion, and pardon me while I hit the home button. So I'm going to play to you a little videotape from March the 12th of this year. This was a public hearing for the Wall Street West Avenue Plan of Development. It came through the redevelopment agency, and I'll get this going.
Next item on the agenda is resignations and appointments. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, no, we closed, I just closed it. I just closed public comment. Well, that's not the norm, but
procedure.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, and
okay, we'll do 2 more, and that's it, because everybody had enough. Mr. Milligan. Mr. Milligan. And I said, let us run the meeting. Mr. Milligan, you've had your 3 minutes, actually 4. So, Ms. Murniotopoulos and Mr. Bonifant, and then we'll close public session. Mr. Descala.
Ask if anyone else would like to speak.
That's not the way it's normally done, but we try to do that when we have a few people. Mr. Milligan, would you please contain yourself? I am not speaking out of turn, you are. I'm chairing the meeting. Ms. Murniotopoulos, you have 3 minutes.
Donna Murniotopoulos, 18 Shore.
Okay, so that was a little interlude that happened at that meeting. Uncharacteristically, in my experience at these meetings, and I've been to quite a few, the sign-up sheet is left at the front of the room until, pretty much until everybody has had a chance to speak. What typically happens is if you come in late and public comment has already begun, you may still sign the sign-in sheet. This meeting was different. The mayor seized the sign-in sheet before the meeting began. So by the time I got in the room at 7:35, there was no sign-in sheet. Mr. Milligan asked for the sign-in sheet, and the mayor said he had it, and Mr. Milligan said, I would like to speak, and I said, I would like to speak. So the mayor found it very convenient to close off public comment before I was given a chance to speak. That wasn't the only irregularity that evening. We came to City Hall with signs, and we were told by the security guard that we could not bring signs in, and there had been signs at a Board of Ed meeting just 2 weeks earlier, so that was inconsistent with my experience with public meetings. And then there was a Norwalk police detail sent to tell us the same thing, that we could not bring signs into City Hall. So here's the question. It's a 2-part question. When the mayor said that it was standard procedure to close off public comment before everybody had spoken, without asking if there's anybody else, was that a fib or a lie, or was that true? Now, Steve Sarassis, who has served on the council, he was in the audience, and you may have heard him protesting. He claimed that that was never true. And then the second part of this is I asked the mayor after the meeting about the prohibition on signs, and he claimed to know nothing about it. Okay, so our mayor is the former chief of police. The security guard was told the morning of the meeting by his supervisor not to let signs into the building. The police department was told not to let signs into the building. So was the mayor telling me a fib or a lie, or did he really not know anything about it? And I have a proposition out there. I don't care if you win or if you don't win. Frankly, if you want me to buy you a cup of coffee, if you win, you get all the answers right, I will. I don't know if there are any right answers, but I have a proposition for the mayor, and I know that he has seen this because he has a Nixonian interest in what people are saying about him. So I have a proposition. I live very close to the South Norwalk Boat Club. I can see the boat club from my deck. And Mayor Rilling, this is an appeal to you. If you can get me an application to the South Norwalk Boat Club, and short track my acceptance, I will put your sign on my deck for everybody in the Norwalk Harbor to see. This is a challenge to Mayor Rilling, and I hope you'll take me up on it. And everyone else, have a great Sunday evening, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.